Okay, so hear me out. I don't know how to publish a book, but I made one, like an actual book, but it's pretty short. It has 16 chapters, I think. Yeah, 16 chapters, but the last one is like a page or two long. So, yeah, I guess I'll start reading from chapter 1. If you guys want another chapter, I'll do it either later tonight or tomorrow. I'll either do these, or I'll do these daily if I can, and sometimes I'll do 2 chapters in one night. I'm gonna start reading the chapter now. Chapter 1. The bell rings once every 6 months, and when it does, the town goes quiet in the way animals do before a storm. No one screams, no one runs. We've learned that panic doesn't help. Panic doesn't block sound. Panic doesn't stop the bell from threading itself into you and deciding what it will take. The bell is older than the tower it hangs above, older than the cliff it overlooks, older than the broken down houses the town pretends not to notice. It rings one time only, deep, slow, and full, like the world being struck with intent. If you hear it, you lose something that belongs to you, an object you bought, a thing you loved, sometimes a piece of yourself. And only you lose it. No one else sees the change if they didn't hear the bell. No one forgets you, no one treats you differently. You're left carrying the absence alone. That's the rule. Everyone knows it. Even if no one says it out loud. I was born knowing this. The way other kids are born knowing not to touch fire. By the time I was old enough to draw properly, my sketchbooks were already full of missing things. Empty hands, faceless people, rooms where something had been erased. Drawing and writing are the only ways I know how to keep things from disappearing completely. I draw what I'm afraid of losing. I write what I don't trust myself to remember. My name is Fernlick Lovelace, and I live alone in a house that should have collapsed years ago, with warped floors and windows that don't shut. Because my family died in a car crash, and there was no one to tell me to leave. People look at me and see a skinny girl with short pink hair I cut myself, doe eyes that make them think I'm softer than I am, freckles scattered across my face like I was dropped into them by accident, long eyelashes that make adults speak gently to me. My right eye is blue, my left eye is green. I don't correct people when they stare. I'm flat, quiet, and usually angry. I don't have friends. I stay single on purpose. I hate the idea of dating, hate the expectation that closeness is something you're supposed to want. I wear skirts and crop tops because I like them, not because I want attention. And the assumptions people make about that sit under my skin like splinters. I only talk when someone speaks to me first. And even then, my voice, sweet, soft, misleading, is usually used to yell. I'm overprotective. I guard what little I have left like it's already under threat. Some nights when the house creaks too loud and the quiet presses in too hard, I think about how easily it would be to stop feeling anything at all. The thought comes uninvited, heavy, and tempting, whispering that things have only ever gotten worse. That loss is the only pattern that sticks. I sit with it. I stare at the wall. I imagine the quiet afterward, and then something in me locks up, refuses, angry and stubborn. Like even the idea of leaving feels like letting the bell win. I don't do it. I never do. Pip is a week old when I decide I can't let him hear the bell. He's asleep in the bassinet beside my mattress on the floor, wrapped in a blanket I bought with money I found in a coat pocket that survived the crash. His mouth is open slightly, breath warm and steady, fists clenched like he's holding on to the world by instinct alone. He doesn't know about bells or bargains or ownership yet. He doesn't know sound can steal. The next ringing is 4 months away. I know this because everyone knows. The date is scratched into walls, written in margins, carved into memory. The bell doesn't surprise us. It waits. It lets dread do half the work. I sit beside Pip and sketch him by the light of a flickering lamp, my pencil pressing too hard, lines sharp with anger I don't know how to put down. His ears are small, pink, fragile. If he hears the bell, it will take something that belongs to him. I don't know what a baby owns yet, but the idea of the bell deciding makes my chest burn. Down the road, a man once lost the watch he wore every day for 30 years. A woman lost her voice, not how people heard her, but the sound itself, gone like it had been an object misplaced. Another neighbor lost a ring she loved so much she slept with it on. The spot on her finger was bare the next morning, and no one else remembered it ever being there. The bell doesn't take things violently. That's what makes it worse. It takes them clean. I heard it once. I was 12, standing too close to the cliff because I wanted to draw the ocean instead of going home. The sound rolled through me before I could cover my ears. The next morning, something I owned was gone. I still didn't write what it was. I still can't. That's why Pip won't hear it. The thought anchors itself in me, solid and furious. Not if I protect him. How? Not whether it's wrong, whether it matters. I tuck my sketchbook under the mattress and pull the curtains tight. The bell hangs just above its tower, visible if you know where to look. I always know where to look. I press my palms over my ears and imagine the sound anyway, the weight of it, the way it feels like it's learning what you love most. Pip sighs in his sleep, unaware of sound or loss or how close I am to breaking most days. I lean close and whisper to him in the soft voice I don't let anyone else hear. I'm still here. I won't let it take you. I don't know yet what that promise costs. I only know that as long as he's breathing, I am too. Outside, the sea crashes once against the rocks, deep and hollow, like something practicing. And that was the end of chapter 1. I might be reading chapter 2 later tonight. Most likely because that was kind of short. So, bye for now, I guess. If you recall, we read episode 1 last video, and this is gonna be we read chapter 1 last video, and this is going to be chapter 2. So, yeah, let's get right into it. The wind picked up along the cliff path that morning, tangling my pink hair across my face and making Pip fuss in his blanket. I wrapped him tighter, ignoring the chill that went straight through my ribcage. The bell wasn't ringing yet, 4 months away. But the thought of it never left me. Every sound, every shadow felt like a reminder I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want Pip to hear. I didn't want to think about anything that might make me lose more than I already had. That's when I heard him. A voice that cut through the cold, the waves, the quiet like a spark against dry wood. Well, isn't this a gloomy morning for a cheerful stroll? I froze, gripping Pip tighter. My eyes scanned the path, and there he was, a boy maybe a year older than me, leaning against the fence that lined the cliff. Messy dark hair, crooked grin, hands shoved in his pockets. He had this aura, the kind that made you think he didn't care about anything, except maybe making you uncomfortable. You're talking to yourself, I said, my voice sharper than I meant. Not exactly, mostly to the ocean, he said, tilting his head. Though it's a bad listener. You look like you need someone to talk to. I narrowed my eyes. I don't need anyone. He grinned wider, like he expected me to say that. Sure, everyone says that, and everyone is wrong. Trust me, I'm never wrong. Well, mostly never. But that's not the point. The point is, you look like someone who could use a laugh, or at least a sarcastic comment. My jaw tightened. I stepped back, holding Pip closer. I don't want to talk. I don't want to laugh. I don't want anything. He raised an eyebrow and tilted his head farther. That's okay. I talk enough for both of us, and I specialize in terrible jokes. I wanted to tell him to leave, but I couldn't move fast enough without making Pip stir. Why do you care what I want? I asked finally, voice low but firm. Because, he said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. You look like you're going to eat the next person who bothers you, and I like a challenge. I blinked. You don't even know me. That's true, but I've seen enough people like you to know they're interesting, and you're interesting. He smirked, clearly proud of himself. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The silence seemed to amuse him. I'm Ethan, by the way. Resident report at sarcasm. Terrible timing, and random life commentary. I kept my eyes on Pip. Fernlake, you can go now. Ah, Fernlake, nice name. Suits the brooding cliff-walking type. I felt my cheeks heat, not from embarrassment, I reminded myself, but from irritation. I said go. He laughed. You say that a lot. I like that about you. Also, you have that whole single and do not approach vibe. Very intimidating. I gritted my teeth. I said go. He raised his hands in mock surrender, smiling but didn't move. Fine, I'll walk behind you. I'll be quiet. Mostly. I didn't respond. I didn't like people, didn't trust them, but something about him, his energy, the way he refused to take no for an answer, made me aware of the weight in my chest. I wasn't used to that. Not for years. So, he said after a few steps, does the little human come with you everywhere, or is this a special occasion? I stiffened, gripping Pip tighter. He's my brother, Pip, and he comes with me. Ah, Pip, good name. Short, easy to yell for. Clever parents. Or sister, he added quickly, noticing my glare. I like your voice, he said. Soft, sweet, but also if you yelled at me, I'd probably run off a cliff or something. I looked at him, and for a fraction of a second, I imagined doing exactly that. Stop talking, I muttered. He chuckled. Noted, silence it is. Mostly. The wind swept my skirt, and his grin seemed unbothered by the chill or the ocean spray. I wanted to push him away, wanted him gone, but for some reason, I didn't. He kept pace, matching my steps without being overbearing, and all the while, Pip stirred in my arms, safe and oblivious. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first time in months I let myself think that the world could hold something less sharp than loss. Even if I didn't trust it, even if I didn't want it. Ethan didn't know about the bell. I didn't tell him. Not yet. And maybe that was a mercy. Or maybe it was a trap. Either way, I didn't look away. Anyways, that was chapter 2. We have chapter 1. Done. Chapter 2. Done. I've decided that I will read either all of the chapters or most of the chapters or half of the chapters tonight. Anyways, I love you guys. Bye-bye. Okay, so we've done chapter 1, we've done chapter 2. We're on chapter 3, but before we start, I just want to say that putting this on 1.25 speed would probably be best because it speeds up my voice a little bit, and I just think it sounds better that way. It's not too fast, and you can still hear what it says very easily, and you'll just get done with the video faster, and you still get to hear the story, so yeah. Unless you want to make it slower, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, but anyways, chapter 3. The next morning, the wind had died down, but the air was still sharp, and I could feel the tide of tension in my chest before I even saw him. Ethan was already leaning against the fence, grinning like he owned the world and like the world owed him a laugh. He waved before I could pass without incident. Morning, Fernley, or Fern, or Fernley, take your pick. I'm flexible. I tightened my grip on Pip, ignoring him, walking faster. Pick none, I muttered. I'm not playing. Oh, come on, he said, jogging to catch up. You can't just ignore me. That's cheating. I clenched my jaw. I didn't owe him attention. I didn't owe anyone attention. Leave me alone, I snapped, not even bothering to lower my voice. I said I'm not talking to you. He tilted his head, amused, completely unbothered. You talk more than anyone I've ever met. Even when you don't talk, I call that style. Fernlake style. My chest tightened. Stop calling me nicknames, I said through gritted teeth. I don't like them, and I don't like you. Leave. Fine, fine. But Fern is so much easier to yell when you're mad, he said, leaning closer, smirk still in place. My eyes narrowed, my hands tightened on Pip's blanket. I said stop, I shouted suddenly, louder than I had intended, the sound echoing across the empty cliff path. It startled both of us. My voice rang harsh, furious, and full. Ethan froze, eyebrows raised. Oh, he said, smirking. We hit volume 10 now. Very dramatic. I like it. That was the last straw. I yanked my sketchbook from the bag strapped over my shoulder, pages crumpled and corners worn, and hurled it at him. He barely caught it, stepping back with a laugh. Hey, I didn't ask for a flying gift. I could feel my own pulse in my throat, my hand shaking. Give it back, I hissed, advancing, but he lifted it above his head just out of reach, smirking as if this were a game. Not so fast, little brooding artist. Can't reach me, can you? I leapt, stretching every muscle in my body. Pip cooed softly in my arms, oblivious, but I could hear my own fury rising like a storm. I'm serious, Ethan, I yelled, voice cracking with anger, adrenaline, and fear. Give it back now, he laughed, carefree, holding the sketchbook above me. Okay, relax, Fern, or Fernley, or Fernlick, you pick. I growled, shoving against him. He lifted it higher, his grin only widening. I tried to jump, to grab the edge, and he tilted it just out of reach. Ethan! I shouted again, and my voice sounded sharper than the rocks under our feet. This isn't funny. Oh, I didn't know you had a funny button, he teased, laughing. I'm just seeing which one works. Enough, I shouted, voice echoing. I never yelled like that at anyone. My soft voice, usually reserved for gentle scolding or Pip's comfort, exploded in anger, raw and dangerous. Ethan's grin faltered for the first time, a flash of surprise on his face, but only for a second. He still held the sketchbook high. Whoa, okay. Whoa, no need to destroy the cliffs, Fern. I stomped, furious. Pip squirmed, fussing, and I ignored everything but the sketchbook. I could see the sunlight glinting off the edges of the pages, sketches of the ocean, of Pip, of places that might not exist tomorrow. He couldn't know what that meant to me. He didn't know about the bell. I didn't tell him, but I wished I had. And then it hit me. He didn't know because his family had kept it from him. Of course they had. My fist clenched. Ethan, the sarcastic, funny boy, who always had a grin for everything, didn't know what could happen to a person, didn't know what the bell could take from you. And yet he was holding my life in his hands. Not intentionally, but maliciously, but completely unaware. Ethan, I said, voice low and trembling. My sketchbook is not a toy. Give it back. Oh, I get it, he said slowly, realization dawning on his face. The brooding artist moment. Protect the art. I can respect that. I didn't know. You didn't know? I spat. No, my parents, they never told me. He waved his hands like he was surrendering. I swear, I didn't know what it could do. I didn't know it took things from you. I just thought it was a story, a legend, a ghost tale. A story? I barked. You think losing something you own, something you can't replace, is a story? He swallowed. No, it was a joke. I felt my anger coiling inside of me, ready to burst. I stomped again, trying to reach it. My sketchbook shook slightly in his hands. Give it back. This isn't a game. I swallowed the words I didn't say. Words about the bell, about Pip, about everything I couldn't risk explaining. My hands clenched around the blanket as he finally lowered the sketchbook just slightly, teasing, holding it at the edge still above me. You're intense, he said finally, eyes wide, smirk gone, replaced with something softer, cautious. Intense doesn't cover it, I snapped. I'm furious, I'm tired, and I'm not letting anything near him. Not you, not the ocean, not anyone. And the next time you try to joke like that, I swear. Okay, he said, raising both hands. I get it. No more nicknames, no more jokes. I'll take it seriously. Promise. I snatched the sketchbook finally, clutching it like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. Pip yawned, finally calm, safe in my arms. I stared at Ethan, chest heaving. He looked guilty, but also fascinated, like he didn't know how someone could be that furious. You're terrifying, he said quietly, almost admiringly. Maybe, I said, voice still shaky, but I'm done explaining anything to anyone who doesn't know what's at stake. Wait, he said, a flash of curiosity and something softer in his eyes. You mean it's real? The bell? It really takes things? I didn't answer. I couldn't. He didn't need to know yet. Not everything. Not him. I cradled Pip. I looked out over the ocean, the wind whipping around us. The bell would ring eventually. 4 months. That's all the time I had. And I didn't trust him. I didn't trust anyone, and yet somehow the tension in the air didn't feel entirely dark. Ethan lowered his gaze, quiet for the first time, and I realized he had no idea what he was stepping into, but I did. And I would protect Pip, and my sketches, and every little piece of what I had left, even if it meant shouting, throwing, and yelling until my throat burned raw, even if it meant facing the worst alone. But the bell would wait, and I had to be ready. So that was all of chapter 3. These are short chapters, I know. Ooh, that's 4. But I'll do 4 in 30 minutes to an hour. It should be posted then, at least. I think my last one posted about 10-20 minutes ago, and then the one before that posted 3 hours ago, so yeah, I'll see what I can do. Anyways, bye-bye. Guess what? We've read chapter 3, and now we're doing 4. I would give y'all a recap on everything that happened, but I have the memory of a goldfish, so I think I recorded it 20 minutes ago. Ooh, no spoilers. But let's just get right into it. But before we do that, I recommend putting it on 1.25 times speed because you can still hear it. You can still listen, understand all the words, even if you're looking away and can't read it. You can use captions. Captions would help because it will move the text every once in a while because the text would get out of the screen, so I have to move it. So it'll just clip to another spot and you might not see it, so you might get lost. So captions would really help if you want to turn that on as well. And let's get into chapter 4. Chapter 4. Night had settled over the town by the time we reached the top of the mountain trail. The wind had a bite to it, cool against my skin, and the cliffside below disappeared into darkness. Stars stretched across the sky, more than I'd ever noticed before, glittering cold and distant. Pip slept quietly in the basket we'd carried along the path, wrapped tightly in the blanket I barely trusted to keep him warm enough. Ethan, of course, was complaining within the first 5 minutes. My legs hurt. Why do we even have to climb this thing? Who decided this was a good idea? He said, rubbing his calves. I ignored him, walking steadily, boots crunching against loose rock. We're climbing because I said so, I muttered, and because it's quiet up here. Quiet is important. Yeah, he groaned, dragging one foot like it weighed 100 pounds. Quiet is always super boring, especially when I'm about to collapse. Stop complaining, I said, not looking at him. You'll make me lose my mind, he snorted. Oh, Fern, you're terrifying when you're quiet and angry. That's my favorite part of you. I froze for half a second, heat rising in my cheeks, but kept walking. That's not a compliment, I muttered. I know, he said, lagging a step behind, but grinning anyway. Just pointing it out. You don't need me to explain it. How much farther? Keep going. I'm tired. Then keep going slower. Don't die. And can we take a break? Yes, just one. He'd slumped down on a rock for 30 seconds before he was up again, whining in exaggerated misery. I kept my hands in my pockets, shoving down the urge to scold him, shoving down the urge to admit that part of me liked his persistence, liked the way he refused to let me stay angry for too long. When we finally reached the top, he flopped onto the ground like a rag doll, arms behind his head, eyes staring at the sky. Ah, finally, he sighed. Worth it, totally worth it. You know, I see a bear up there. Or maybe it's a dog. Or a dragon. Definitely a dragon. You see dragons in the stars? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral, feeling the tension in my shoulders loosen just a little. Only the good nights, he said, smiling lazily. Sometimes they're flying, sometimes they're just staring down at me, judging my legs. I sat down carefully, a few feet away. Pip tucked safely beside me in the basket. The silence stretched between us, but it wasn't heavy. It wasn't empty. It was quiet in a way that didn't threaten. It was quiet in a way I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Ethan jabbed a finger toward the sky. See that clustered? Looks like a fox. No, maybe a rabbit. Wait, yeah, a rabbit. With wings. Definitely wings. That's a new constellation. I call it Fernlix Fury. I raised an eyebrow, lips twitching. Don't be ridiculous. I am ridiculous, he admitted, grinning. But it's fun, and you're fun too. Even when you're mad. Even when you yell at me and throw sketchbooks. I stared at him, and for a moment, the anger that usually shimmered inside me, the edge that made me push people away, faded like mist in the morning sun. I couldn't explain it, but I let myself relax. I could breathe. The stars were endless, the wind soft against my cheeks. Pip safe, Ethan ridiculous but comforting, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled without meaning to. A real smile. Quiet, small, but unafraid. Don't get used to it, I said softly, almost to myself. What? He asked, with one eye half-lidded in curiosity. This. Feeling calm, I said. He tilted his head, grinning. Good, because I'm not leaving anytime soon. I glanced at him. Maybe I thought some people can't be pushed away. Maybe some people are meant to sit beside you on top of a mountain, pointing at stars and naming dragons and rabbits with wings, and you just accept them. I guess that's okay, I admitted, letting a laugh slip out. It sounded strange to my own ears, lighter than I expected. He laughed too, and the sound didn't irritate me. Instead, it felt easy, safe even. The wind blew cold over us, but I didn't mind. Pip murmured in his sleep, stretching one tiny hand, and I reached down to touch it gently. The stars above glimmered like they were watching, or maybe waiting, and for once, I didn't think about the bell. I didn't think about losing things. I didn't think about the anger or pain. I thought only about this quiet moment, the calm, the absurdity of Ethan pointing at constellations he invented, and the fact that I had made a new friend, whether I agreed to it or not. And that, I realized, was more terrifying and more beautiful than the bell could ever take. That was chapter 4. Was that my longest chapter? I don't think that was my longest chapter, I think. Wait, I think my first chapter is the longest out of the first 4. Yeah, I think so. But that was it for this one. the next one will probably be posted in like 10 minutes to an hour. Just hang in there and be patient, and bye-bye. Alright, so last time we did this, we read chapter 4. Or if you need a recap, then I'll give you one right here. And if you didn't watch it, you need to watch it before you do this so you don't get spoiled. Anyways, the recap is they went on this mountain and Ethan pointed out stars, like constellations, naming them weird things, deciding whether they were like a dragon or a rabbit with wings, stuff like that. And then Fern like finally decided to be calm and she didn't yell for once, and they kind of just sat there peacefully. But yeah, that was my recap anyways. If you want to hear it better, I recommend putting it in 1.25 speed. I feel like I've been talking faster each of these like episode things, each of these videos, but I don't know. So we're gonna start chapter 5 because we did the first 4 chapters, which are pretty short. They only took about 7 minutes to read, but that's plus editing. And if you're questioning what I mean by editing, I mean taking small chunks and then showing it one by one, because at one point the text will run out and I need to get to the next section, so it'll just appear. I recommend putting on captions because captions will help explain what I'm saying, because once again, sections move because it'll run out at one point and I need to move it to a new section, so you might get lost somewhere the text is. It'll most likely appear somewhere at the top where I'm reading. When it transitions to like a new spot, it'll most likely be at the top, or like starting from the top. And so like captions would still help though. Anyways, chapter 4. No, not chapter 4. We did chapter 4, did we? Yeah, we did. We're doing chapter 5. I'm sorry if I've been calling it 4 this whole time. I meant 5. If I said 5, then I have the memory of a goldfish. You cannot rely on me to memorize anything except chapter 4, apparently. Anyways, chapter 5, we're gonna jump right into it. This has been 2 minutes long, almost 3 minutes long of me just doing a recap and yapping, so I'm just gonna get started. Chapter 5. The night had deepened into a quiet so thick it pressed against my ears. The stars overhead, sharp and glittering, like tiny mirrors I can't quite touch. It was past 1 in the morning when we finally decided to head down the mountain. Pip had shifted in his basket, murmuring softly, and I tucked the blanket closer, keeping him warm. Ethan groaned immediately. "My legs hate me so much," he said, rubbing his calves. We've only been at the top for hours, and my legs are already planning a rebellion." "Then keep walking," I muttered, boots crunching on loose rocks. "They'll get over it." "Over it?" he asked, mock indignation in his tone. "We've got 2 feet each, and apparently we're still not prepared for this trek. Terrible planning on your part." I glared, but I let him whine. He kept his pace, and somehow I didn't want to push him away this time. The path down was steeper than I remembered, and the dark made everything unfamiliar, shadows stretching like long fingers across the rocks. I moved carefully, eyes scanning every step. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and wet earth. "Fernlick," Ethan said after a while, voice soft now. "You're surprisingly quiet for someone who yells at me constantly." I didn't respond. Silence suited me. Silence let me focus. The path narrowed, and my boot caught on a loose stone. My heart jumped. I slipped. Time stretched, and I couldn't stop my hands from reaching for anything solid. There was a flash of panic, a scream caught in my throat, and then strong, warm, Ethan's hand shot out. His fingers closed around mine, firm and steady, pulling me back onto solid ground. The sudden contact made me freeze, my pulse thrumming in my ears. "Careful," he said, almost embarrassed. You're alive. You're safe now." I exhaled shakily, gripping the edge of the rock for balance. Pip stirred but didn't wake. I looked at Ethan, and the moonlight caught his dark hair and the serious set of his face, and my chest fluttered in a way I hated to admit. My hand still tingled where his had gripped mine. He let go almost immediately, stepping back as if afraid I might explode or vanish. I could feel my cheeks burning. I didn't fall, I said quickly, trying to reclaim some composure. I was fine. Yeah, sure, he said, smirking, though I could tell he was just as aware of the moment as I was. Totally fine. Absolutely not a death-defying slip. No drama at all. I ignored him, keeping my eyes on the rocky path, but I could feel the awkward weight between us. His hand, the warmth, the strength, it lingered. My pulse didn't slow. Every step down the mountain felt longer, more deliberate. But because I couldn't stop replaying the instant our fingers had touched, and it didn't tease. He stayed quiet, letting me lead, letting me process the rush of fear and the blush that refused to fade. By the time we reached the flatter path near the tree line, I finally allowed myself to glance at him. Ethan looked tired, legs sprawled slightly as he caught his breath, but his dark eyes held that faint light of amusement he always carried. He caught my gaze and grinned, a little sheepish now, like he hadn't meant to invade my space so thoroughly. You're alive, he said again, voice low, and you're still mad at me. That's impressive. I let a small reluctant laugh escape. You're lucky, I said softly, meaning it. If you dropped me, you wouldn't have lived this long either. He chuckled, shaking his head. Yeah, lesson learned. Don't let Fern look near a cliff without me holding her hand. My stomach flipped, and I turned away, forcing my cheeks to cool in the night air. We kept walking, slower now, careful steps down the mountain. The tension eased, the awkwardness settling into something quieter, more comfortable. The stars above us stretched endlessly, and for the first time since the bell entered life, I didn't think about losing anything. Not yet. I only thought about the warmth that lingered in my hand, the absurd comfort of knowing someone like Ethan, annoying, ridiculous, persistent, was there, and that for one moment I could feel safe without fighting him off. Maybe some people were worth letting in, even if you never agreed to it. Okay, that was kind of wholesome. Yes, I'm calling my own book wholesome. Okay. I liked making that chapter, but I also cringed during it because it's I don't know. I cringed, but it's also kind of wholesome because he literally saved her life, and I'm gonna stop yapping, and bye-bye.